Hey guys, today I'll be doing an update on my 25-gallon reef. I'll be starting off with the history behind it, how I have it set up, the livestock, some of the issues I've been experiencing, and what I'm doing to correct those issues. Stay tuned. This is a 25-gallon rimless Bowfront aquarium I've had set up since September of last year. So it's coming up on 1 year old now. Prior to that, I had this set up as a freshwater aquarium, but as I got more into saltwater, I decided to give all the fish away and take this aquarium down. The intent with this aquarium was to give myself a place to test things out on a smaller scale. I plan to keep mostly soft corals in here, although over the course of time I have added some SPS just to test it out and see how things would do. I really haven't been giving this aquarium the attention that it deserves, and which leads me to the issues with the algae that I've been experiencing recently. Getting into the setup, I drilled the back of the tank and installed an overflow box and a return line. Down below, I have a custom 10-gallon sump which I built. It's your classic 3-chamber design with a bubble trap. In the first chamber, I have the overflow coming into a filter sock, and I also have an Aquatic Life 115 mini protein skimmer. The next chamber is my refugium, where I have some rubble rock and some Cheeto macroalgae growing. Next, I have my bubble trap, which I keep a media bag in there with carbon and GFO, and I also have my heaters tucked in there, which flows out into the last chamber, which is my return section, where I use a MaxJet 1200 return pump rated at 295 gallons per hour. I use a JBJ auto top-off unit connected to an aqualifter pump. That blue container on the left is my freshwater reservoir, which holds 3 gallons. One last piece of equipment I should mention is my 9-watt UV sterilizer, which I have teed off of the return line and mounted to the roof of the sump area. For lighting, I am using a Current USA Orbit Marine first generation LED fixture. This light works okay for soft corals, but is not really suitable for SPS. With all of that out of the way, we can finally get to the real point of the video. And if you haven't guessed it already, it's the issue with the hair algae that I'm seeing in this tank. For the most part, all of the corals and the livestock are doing pretty good. But over the course of the last few months, the algae has started to grow and multiply. At first I didn't think much of it and just kind of let it go. But as time went on, it started to get worse and worse, and I wasn't really quite sure what was going on. My first instincts were to start with the basics, such as shortening the lighting period and to feed less, which I did do, but still, the algae kept growing. My next thought was maybe my cleanup crew wasn't good enough, so I went out and bought a lot more snails and added them to the tank to help control the algae issue. What I didn't realize at the time was that my initial cleanup crew had all but gone missing. So I added my new cleanup crew into the tank, and over the next few weeks I did notice that I started to see less and less snails on the glass, which made me wonder what the heck was happening to everybody. After some investigation, I was able to find out what was happening with my snails. In the back of the rockwork, I found a small cave with a pile of shells outside of it. And what I hadn't realized is that one of my hermit crabs had decided to go rogue. He went psychotic and decided to kill off every single one of my snails as they passed by his cave. So I basically had a pile of dead and decaying snails outside of his little crab den. And I believe that was probably what was feeding all of this algae in the tank. It didn't take long to catch the perpetrator. He was put on trial and sentenced to life in solitary, where he will be living out the rest of his days. This is him here. You can see him wearing the shell of one of his victims. Rest in peace, Slimy. Now that that crab is out of the tank, I can begin the process of finally eliminating this algae. I've replaced the cleanup crew. I have, more snails in here now that are helping to, eat the algae. I've got an emerald crab that you can see here, doing his part. I also have an urchin, and I plan to put 2 of those mollies that I've been acclimating to salt water into here to help control the existing algae that's in here. In addition, I will be performing 1 or 2 water changes per week in an effort to help stabilize the water chemistry and remove any of the excess nutrients that are in there. I will also be running GFO and carbon to help aid in the effort. This tank has a relatively light bioload. I currently only have 4 fish in here. I have a tailspot blenny, an orchid dottyback, a scooter blenny, and a blue-green reef chromie. There's also 2 shrimp in here, a cleaner shrimp and a peppermint shrimp. There's 1 emerald crab, a sea urchin, and a few snails, and there are a few hermit crabs left in here, but none have ever given me a problem like the one I discussed previously. So this is my plan of attack for the next few weeks. I'll be keeping up with the water changes, make sure there's fresh GFO and carbon in the system, and I'm going to keep an eye on the cleanup crew, make sure that they're doing their job. And I think just with due diligence, we'll be able to get this problem under control. And honestly, it is receding somewhat. I have been working on this for the last few weeks, and I have noticed some improvement, but it's just going to take some time to starve out all of this excess algae that's in the tank. I think that about wraps it up for this video. As always, I appreciate all of your questions and comments. Please leave them below, and I'll catch you next time.